And the war of words between the White House and President-elect Trump's team over reports of Russian involvement in the presidential election continuing.
Mr. Trump obviously knew that Russia was engaged in malicious cyber activity that was helping him and hurting Secretary Clinton's campaign. And again, these are all facts that are not in dispute.
And Kellyanne Conway, I think, saw that for the first time yesterday. She went off the charts. But our next guest says CIA Director John Brennan is the only member of the U.S. intel community asserting Russia's involvement. And he's getting that straight from the president.
Joining us now is Ed Klein, the author of Guilty as Sin. Good morning to you, Ed.
Good morning. Good to be with you guys.
Good to be with you, too. So tell us about John Brennan, who does believe that he's head of the CIA, does believe that Russia could be involved. But yet he's not...
At least that's what he's saying.
Right, but he's not allowing anyone from his agency to go in front of the House and talk about it.
What I can tell you is that James Comey, the director of the FBI, called Donald Trump, and he said there is no credible evidence that Vladimir Putin or any other Russian intended to throw the election to Donald Trump, and that the only person in the entire intelligence community who is saying that is John Brennan at the CIA.
And they're all looking, the intel community, they all look at the same stuff, and they've got analysts who interpret it different ways. Does John Brennan, who runs the CIA, and keep in mind, the CIA said, well, we think there's evidence that they did something. The FBI said, we don't see any provable evidence. And so that's the rub right there. Is there any suggestion that this is a political hit job?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is that what James Comey believes and what he told the president-elect is that he believes that John Brennan has politicized the CIA the same way that Eric Holder politicized the Justice Department.
Which is unbelievable. Now, the big question is, how do you know that? You know, so you know that James Comey called Donald Trump and said this? Right?
I know that from very good sources, of course, that they had this conversation. Not once, but several conversations, actually.
So we know the National Intelligence Director said that we don't know the Russians have it.
Right.
NBC News reported yesterday it goes all the way up to Vladimir Putin. Huge difference.
Yeah, the huge difference. The interesting thing is that there's a fierce debate within the intelligence community, especially between the CIA and the FBI, whose job, by the way, is counter-espionage in this country, counter cyber attacks. That's what the FBI does, over whether there was any intention. And Comey doesn't believe that there was any intention. Now, he's not saying there wasn't hacking, because there has been hacking. But he doesn't believe for a second that why, he says to the president-elect, would Vladimir Putin prefer Donald Trump, who's going to build up our Navy, build up our Army, is a tough guy. Why would you prefer him over Hillary Clinton, who's just going to continue this passive Obama foreign policy? It doesn't make any sense.
So what happens to John Brennan when President-elect Donald Trump does get into office? Because his voters don't like this guy.
That's right. I don't think John Brennan will survive Donald Trump.
Well, he's not. He's going to be out. Pompeo's coming in, and he was at the Trump Tower yesterday. Meanwhile, Josh Earnest doubled down. Listen to what he had to say. Excuse me. This is after Josh Earnest doubled down. Donald Trump took note, hopped on the stage, and weaved this into his speech.
American tax dollars were used on nonprofits, One Voice and these other groups. They spent $350,000 was traced, but there was other money that's fungible, where they were building a voter database, they were organizing. Ultimately, it became a super PAC that took in millions of dollars of campaign contributions, much from American Democrats and Obama supporters, that was run by Jeremy Byrd, who was the Obama for America political director. And the one goal of the super PAC was to defeat Prime Minister Netanyahu. He was trying to defeat the government of our strongest opponent, and I mean our strongest ally.
That's the soundbite we're going to show you a little bit later. That is essentially him saying, this is Barack Obama, hardcore proof that Barack Obama was actually meddling in a Barack Obama administration, and his political director was meddling in a foreign election. That was Israel's election. That was John McLaughlin.
Yes. Now he's saying, the president, who, by the way, is saying, hey, I'm going to get along with this new president-elect, Mr. Comey. He and I are going to talk on the phone and do. But behind the scenes, Obama and Hillary and that whole left-wing group are trying to delegitimize the new president-elect.
Right.
Sure, that was clear. I mean, it started with the recount. That didn't work. Then they moved on to the Russian thing. You say, Ed, that apparently Brennan, who has, in your estimation, politicized the CIA.
Absolutely.
He's taken his marching orders from
Barack Obama, yes.
Just like Josh Earnest.
Right.
So in public, the president
is saying one thing.
He's rising above the shabbiness, and then
Yes.
he's got his henchmen out
Exactly.
trying to sock
That's
Donald
exactly
Trump in the
what's
nose.
happening, yes.
But that did not stop Donald Trump. Going to try this again. This did not stop. We're not going to run it.
What he did, what Donald Trump did last night,
I'll just tell you,
was he called Josh Earnest foolish.
Yes.
But if Josh Earnest is just following his boss's orders.
Josh Earnest is not saying anything that the President of the United States doesn't want him to say, obviously.
So what does this suggest going forward, the relationship between the soon-to-be former president and the new president, Donald Trump, is going to be like? Because Barack Obama is going to live in Washington.
Listen, the word conspiracy may be too strong a word, but we know that Michael Moore is organizing street demonstrations on Inauguration Day.
He wants to force Donald Trump indoors.
That's right, number one. We know that Soros, Tom Steyer, who is the environmentalist guy, the Black Lives Matter, MoveOn.org, you name it, they are going to do a kind of what I would call a Vietnam-era street demonstration against Donald Trump for the next 4 years.
Do you think Donald Trump cares? Do you really think is that going to make a difference?
I think it just get his Irish up, as they say.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, and we'll see if the security is going to allow that to happen. I doubt it. They're going to lock the whole place down.
Of course.
Interesting stuff. So Ed Klein just said that John Brennan, the CIA guy, is behind these rumors. Ed, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Ed.